you've got a number of pictures, of course, on your website. Many of them from 2003 and 4.
Right.
How many of those pictures would you say in your estimate? Well, how many would you estimate are authentic photographs of the planet?
I might say about 10% really that I would put my life on. Because I was including anything that I myself could not discount. The Zetas spoke to very little of them, very few of them. But there's probably 10%. I had a number of photos from a German guy who was in China that was just stunning, and he knew his stuff, and then there was some from South Africa of the second sun, that was just undeniable, and no lens flares in those photos at all. So, but I would have to say that there's a vast majority of, and I could go through and probably pick out the ones that I thought were the best, but then there was one when it came in the spring of 2003 that a guy called Kid A, from North Carolina took, and it showed the double helix swirl coming off from either side, which of course creates those wings, in the ancient Sumerian depiction. And when you enhance that thing, you can see this double helix swirl. And people studied that original image up one side and down another, and it is not photoshopped. So those are a few that I could mention right off the top. But it is, I'm sure I have plenty of lens flares in there. At the time I was perhaps more generous than I should have been to include, because I was trying to encourage people to do, what they could, and I put it out there saying, here, what do you think, kind of thing. But the Zetas spoke to very, very few of them. They spoke to Kid A's image. They spoke, to some, and said this is genuine. And as a recent video from just above the Black Sea in Russia, I have this on one of my newsletters in my archives there, that the Zeta said was a video. Someone who knew what they were doing went through the whole darn sunset, starting and stopping this video, and they said that is a genuine capture of the second sun, just to the right of the setting sun, and that's probably why we're having such a blitz of people trying to take videos of the sun and saying, look, I have an orb in there. But most of that is, I really all of everything except that Russian that I've seen so far is what I would have to call a reflection of the sun on the lens of the video camera, and not a genuine second sun sighting. But this Russian one was, they knew what they were doing. And interestingly enough, the location of the sighting was just close to where the Russian Astronaut Center is. And that's why I suspect it was professionally done and a professional leak of someone who just didn't like the cover-up.
Nancy, were you the one, I'm not sure if it was you or someone else that I interviewed, had mentioned there was a weatherman, a climatologist, who was presenting the weather on some television network. And there was a photograph of the sun setting back of him. And he turned around and he says, "Whoa, what's this?" It almost looks like two suns.
Yeah. I heard that, and that was something that was reported way back then in 2003, August, September, and we had a lot of blackouts in those days too, because the charged tail of Planet X was wafting past Earth, and but that type of thing has stopped. Anybody who was prone to do that kind of thing, and part of it has been removed, and not allowed. You have to be one of these implacable people that follows the rules and reads the little list of do not talk about this, on the media, and remembers that and just undo it, So I think that when something first happens, and news people, the talking heads, they don't know they're not supposed to talk about it. They say, "Whoa, look at that!" And then somebody rushes in with a national security directive saying they should be quiet, and not talk about that because panic might ensue. But in that moment, that day or whatever before those national security directives come down, it gets out.
Okay, you're listening to the Earth Frenzy radio show. Our guest on this edition is Nancy Lader. She is a well-known and frequent national radio talk show guest on the subject of Planet X and post-shift survival. She is also a self-acclaimed contactee and emissary of the alien life forms from the binary star system Zeta Reticuli. Nancy has authored a book called Zeta Talk, Direct Answers from the Zeta Reticuli People, and manages the popular website zetatalk.com. On her website, you can also find a video series called Zeta Report that highlights some of the strange events occurring today. Okay, we're back with our guest, Nancy Later. On our last segment, we interviewed Patty Greer, who is an award-winning crop circle producer, who had the privilege of photographing and witnessing firsthand the amazing July 2008 Planet X Nibiru crop circle formation in Avebury, England, which was later destroyed by the owner of that property. Nancy, what do you know about this formation, and what is it telling us about Planet X?
Can you briefly, because we've covered so many crop circles, we get asked to analyze almost every one of them. Was this a 2009 Avebury or?
No, this was the one in July of 2008, which apparently was destroyed by the farmer who owned the property.
What did it look like?
Well, it had three large circles with some lines going out from the circles and actually meeting towards the end of the last circle, which was smaller than the previous two circles.
Well, I'm not sure that we were asked to analyze that, but in general, anything with three is referring to the magnetic trimesters. This is something that Zeta Talk has analyzed crop circles since 2004 because people just insisted on it. They said, we're just lost. Please give us a hint. And so finally they did, and this is in the Awakening section of Zeta Talk, all that extensive analysis. It is three. The Earth is divided into our calendar year, magnetic trimesters, and they end more or less in April, December, and August, the same as the Zetas have mentioned is likely to be the pole shift point. And in fact, when they first came out with this and said, this is something bigger than the solar system, not our sun, but the solar system in general has some fluxing thing that goes on, where there's a difference in magnetic particle flows. And I looked at the HARP documentation up in Alaska and found that indeed it fell into those three trimesters, 4-month periods each, and there was a difference, and it was in accordance with what the Zetas had said. And this is all outlined. If one wants to dig around on my website, you can find all that. In any case, my guess would be that if you have three influences or three balls, and it should be like a triangle.
And it's like the first one is quite large, and then you have
right.
The middle one is a little smaller, and then the last one is even smaller than that.
That's what they describe as the magnetic trimesters, that one of them is a stronger period, the next one is backing off, the next one is kind of sleepy, and then boom, we get the strong one again as we go through the calendar. So that's what it was depicting, the magnetic trimesters.
Are there Planet X crop circles that actually are telling us the location of the planet?
No, they're telling people you have this feeling of impact as the crop circle diagrams have progressed and matured over the years. At first, everything was at a distance, etc. But you have this feeling of impact. Like showing a giant buzzing insect or something like that. You get this feeling of a thrumming. Well, if you look at the electromagnetic effect that has happened just this last few months, with Air France going down and exploding transformer in Russia, and depicted on this Japanese simulation site where it shows us the washover of electromagnetic, just hitting the earth and washing right around it. That is something like the pulsing that they were displaying in the buzzing insect crop circle. So if you look at it and you realize the Zeta said subconsciously people are picking up that they're looking at a passing planet, a clash of planets, the effect that the gravitational and electromagnetic force is going to have on the Earth, and that's what it's relaying. But it's not saying look at the sun and you'll see this, or look out in the night sky and you'll see this. It's more assuming that you're going to be blind. As people say, if it's there, why can't I see it? But you can. The weather is telling you that. The fact that the moon is out of position is telling you that. The sloshing tides up and down our coastline is telling you that. So you can feel it but not see it, and that's what you get when you look at crop circles.